FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz, and today is 10/15/19. Well, you've probably been watching the repo market. You know, we've been talking about it a lot here. I believe this situation is underappreciated, that there's a lot more here than meets the eye, that there is, as usual, a major cover-up, a problem in the global financial system that the Federal Reserve is attempting to paper over. Where that problem is exactly, we don't know. But if you've got an opinion, we want to hear from you. If you're on YouTube, just post a comment. You know that I'm answering most of them now. Otherwise, you can email me, kl@kerrylutz.com. Well, our good friend Darryl Schoon is with us now. Darryl and I go way back. I mean, we've been talking about this crazy, insane financial system now for close to 8 years. You can find Darryl's site. He does a lot of good writing, and the website is drschoon, drschoon.com. And Darryl, it's great to have you back. So
great to be back, Gary.
What's with the repo madness? That is the most staid market. I've covered it, I can't tell you how many times on the show, not because I'm trying to bore you, not because there aren't other things going on, but there's something happening, because that market is a very stable, staid market. It's only had a couple of blow-ups in the past. 9/11 was one, and then in 08, 09, a lot of problems there because of the securities. I guess first, Darryl, let's just review for you out there, what is a repo agreement and why should you care?
All right. In my view, the repo market is the pawn shop for banks. It operates as a pawn shop for banks. All right. Mm-hmm. Now, banks get money really cheap. They create it. All right. And they create it legally out of thin air based on some asset base that they've got, but they've got numbers. All right. And what happens is that the repo market gets activated. The Fed enters the repo market when banks will not loan to each other at interest rates that the banks want to pay. This is really interesting. Banking really is about trust. All right. And the banking game is about, they trust each other, but they don't, but the markets you can never really trust. Now, what happens in times of stress, the banks don't even trust each other. Mm-hmm. They won't. They will not. I mean, I remember when Antal told me a story about when he was talking with a Swiss banker and during a crisis, and the banker pointed out the window and said, see all those trucks, and there were all those armored vehicles. And this is Switzerland, they were carrying gold from one bank to another physically. He said, because they did not trust the transfer or their promise. They would only loan if they got physical possession. All right. Now, this is unusual, and that's why he pointed it out to Antal. He said, because it was a very stressful time. All right. Now, the repo market, at least when the Fed enters the repo market, it's an indication of a systemic stress, because the banks are not trustworthy. They won't loan to each other at a rate that they're willing to pay. So in other words, if their interest rates to each other goes up, it shows the level of trust is going down. Mm-hmm. So it shows that is a deep systemic indication of trouble in the banking industry. Now, the repo market itself, when the Fed enters, is this. Like I said before, it's a pawn shop for banks. What they do is in the repo market is that they will loan the Fed. They get money from the Fed by delivering to the Fed securities that they own.
This reminds me of a Dire Straits song, "Money for Nothing," and Kicks for Free. Is that what we're talking about here?
Yeah, money on it for a promise. All right, which is money for nothing. All right, you're right. So what the Fed will do is that they will take securities from the banks and give them an overnight loan. Okay, which is like, hey, it's payday. It's payday for the banks. All right. Now, the difference between a payday loan for poor people and the payday loan at the Fed window is that when you and I, or anybody who's going to that payday loan place, you know they're paying shark loan rate. I mean, they're pressed to the wall. They need money for food, whatever. They're pressed to the wall. You only go to a payday loan place if you really are in dire need.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the banks only go to the Fed window when they're in dire need. The difference, Kerry, is this. You and I, or everybody else, will go to a payday loan because we can't go to the Fed window. But if we're pressed to the wall, we'll go to a payday loan place and pay shark loan rate. When the banks go to the Fed window, they pay a lower than market rate.
Mm-hmm.
All right? This is why everybody, when they think, oh, yeah, free markets are free, bullshit. They're distorted for a purpose. So when the banks are in dire need for overnight cash, and this is overnight cash, they go to the Fed window with their securities. The Fed gives them cash for that security that they don't have to pay until the security matures.
Mm-hmm.
That's stunning.
Right.
Right? So in other words, they're passing off their IOU for cash on the barrelhead at a lower market rate than they can get anywhere else. This is the payday loan place for the banking system. Now, what's worse, Kerry, is this. Not only are banks enabled to loan them securities that they own to the Fed for overnight cash, they can give them securities that they don't own, but their clients do for cash.
Right.
All right? So
it's not even their collateral?
No, that's collateral.
It's like MFS Global, right? That's what happened with them?
No. Man, I was doing better until you brought that up. But anyway, I got to gather myself after that, Kerry. So what happens is that what we're seeing here is a loan where the building blocks of our financial credit and debt system are under such pressure that they have to go to the Fed pawn shop window to stay in business, to meet overnight cash obligations. All right. Now, when they did this on September 17th, it was the first time in years that they've had to do it. All right. I mean, the reason why they don't go there because they have to pay a high interest rate. They're not loath to go there because of the interest rates they pay. They don't like going there because they don't like it known that they're under pressure. Well, because it's a con game. If you know that your bank is in trouble, you're not going to loan money to the bank. But what the government does is they cover for the banks just like they cover for the meat industry in the mad cow disease. When the mad cow disease happened in the United States, they passed a law where the government, USDA, could not give out the names of the stores that were carrying suspect beef. Mm-hmm. So you as a consumer at risk for mad cow disease were unable to find out whether or not Safeway beef was safe or was the beef in question. Mm-hmm. So the Fed has done the same thing. They do not give out the names of the banks going to them for cheap money for the same reason. They don't want to scare the chickens on the farm.
Right.
Right. So, and we're the chickens. I mean, if any of you have the illusion out there or delusion that this system is built for you, I would say smoke crack. Yeah. It's more real. So the deal is that we're under a severe systemic pressure when you see anybody going to the repo window like they started on September 17th. The question was, when the news came out on the 20th that they had done this, it was shocking to everybody. All right. So and when they got over the shock that this was happening for the first time in years, the thought was, how long is this going to continue? Well, it was overnight, until by the end of September, they said, we're going to continue until October 4th. Whew. All right. Mm-hmm. In other words, so the patient was in emergency room, in emergency care, and everybody was hoping he's going to get out the next day. Then the doctors come out and say, well, we're going to keep him in until October 4th. Mm-hmm. Well, in the first week of October 4th, they said, well, we're going to keep him in for until November 4th. All right. Now, we're not on November 4th. Okay. And they've already come out and told us they're going to do this continually.
Sounds like in-home hospice to me.
That's a wonderful description. Kerry Lutz, your contribution to economic observation was just reached an incredible level. In-home hospice. That's what you've got. Now, let me tell you the first time I encountered it, because I, along with everybody else, is unknowing about this stuff. Kerry, when I started my study of economics, I had never taken an econ course. I just had a number of questions that I wanted to answer. And if I've been able and I think my reputation has been based upon my ability, or what I've been able to do is to explain today's markets in a way that's explainable, because I didn't understand it. And so to understand it, I had to first be able to tell myself what's going on. And if I could tell myself what's going on in plain English, I could tell other people. All right. That's why I love your statement about hospice. I know the power of metaphor when it's appropriate.
Well,
right?
Things are looking pretty bleak. So
very bleak.
Yeah. So the pawn shop for banks has run out of money, and the feds have to come in there and basically put it on end of life care.
Yeah, we've got some very skilled nurses in that room right now who are talking, who have the doctor's personal cell phone on at hand in case something happens. All right. So when I first encountered this phenomenon, ironically enough, I was in Hungary at one of Professor Fekete's. This is the first time I'd been there. Maybe it could have been the second time I was in Hungary at Antal Fekete's gold seminar. And there's not a lot of people. There's around 20 of us, 25 of us. And we're from Asia, Africa, Europe, United States. A few of us from all over the globe, gathered there to hear Antal's Austrian perspective on the markets, because he was so brilliantly incisive and aware of what was going on that we were in Hungary at that time in August 2007. Now, this is 1 year before the collapse. All right. Now, the seminar was held in a former monastery, and it didn't have Wi-Fi. All right. But they had computers hooked up downstairs. Well, what I remember, Carrie, is this. We were all gathered downstairs around the computers, watching them about what was going on around global markets. What we didn't know then was what we know now. There was a repo intervention. All right.
Exactly. That's what Martin Armstrong said, that all the collateral they were using, all these AAA rated bonds, turned to garbage overnight.
Yes. Well, the AAA rated bonds that had been turned into garbage was U.S. subprime at that time. All right. And it, two Bear Stearns hedge funds had collapsed in July. But what really caused the crises that we were watching at was a German bank called IKB. All right. And they were holding a large stash of U.S. subprime loans that had turned to crap, and they couldn't meet their lines of credit and enforce emergency liquidity from the EU. Now, we didn't know this. All right. I only found that out recently. But at the time in 2007, we didn't know this. All we knew was something was going on that we didn't understand that was really important. So in August of 2007, those of us who were in Hungary at Antal's gold seminar were all gathered around these computers watching it. It was like knowing that something serious was going on, but not knowing what it was.
Yeah.
All right. So to me, when I look at what's going on now in the repo markets, I go back, 11 years, 12 years to that period in the summer of 2007, where we knew something was going on and we didn't know what it was. Now, 12 years later, Carrie, I'm a lot more aware of what's going on, and I'm a lot more aware of the consequences of it. Now, the truth is this. The Fed will print as much money as they can to keep the system floating up, all right? And it's like one of my friends asked me, who doesn't know about it, but who knows I watch this stuff, he said, well, what does this mean? And so I thought about it, and I said, they're going to keep the patient alive as long as they can, all right? And this is sort of what I would call black magic. All right. They're using black magic to keep the patient alive in hospice. Why? Well, because so much depends on the patient being alive. And what it really depends on are everyday people going out and borrowing money to go to school, to buy a car, to keep their Ponzi scheme going. Because banking is a confidence game. All right. Because you're not going to borrow unless one of two things is happening. One, that you believe you're not going to borrow and buy a new house or a new refrigerator or get that hot tub unless you believe that your economic future is going to be good enough to make those payments. And if you think that your job's threatened or your bank's threatened or there's a threat somewhere outside the system, you're just going to wait and see. All right. That's the prime one of the reasons you're going to borrow money. The other reason people are going to borrow money is that it's the last place they've got to live.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Most people right now are living on loans, and this includes not only the people who are pushed to the line at the payday loan. This includes the corporation. Their cash flow is basically borrowing for the future to pay off today's obligation, and this includes government. All right, so everybody's in the soup kitchen line. All right, the difference is, Kerry, the poor are out on the sidewalk. The rich are phoning their bankers. All right, and the banks are in the soup kitchen line. All right, so the judgment about who's in the soup kitchen line is only on those the poorest of the poor who don't have any shelter. They're on the street in the soup kitchen line. Everybody else is doing it by phone.
Yeah.
All right, but everybody's in the soup kitchen line. So that's how I understand now what's going on in 2019 that I didn't understand in 2007.
So basically, the Federal Reserve has become the payday lender for the banks, except rather than a payday lender, which would charge you or me 300 or 400% a year for the privilege of advancing our next check to us, here they're charging them a couple of percent or even next to
even
nothing.
Below.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next.
Trilogy Metals is a world-class developer in Alaska's Ambler Mining District. The company already possesses 8 billion pounds of copper, 3 billion pounds of zinc, over 1 million gold equivalent ounces, and now over 77 million pounds of cobalt. Trilogy's Arctic project boasts an after-tax net present value of $1.4 billion with a 33% IRR. Trilogy is led by an experienced management team with proven success in discovering and developing projects in Alaska. The company is well capitalized, has no debt, and possesses strong institutional support. Trilogy trades on the New York and Toronto exchanges under the ticker symbol TMQ. To learn more, go to trilogymetals.com. That's trilogymetals.com.
The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Yeah.
Definitely below market price. Now, that's really the cut, all right? Is that how we line up is in society today is our access to credit. Those who have the least amount of access, the poorest, are paying the highest rate. Those who don't even, who are the most liquid, are paying the lowest rate. This is an inversion of reality, all right? It's access to credit. So this is what we've got as we're heading into the end game. Now, you asked the question because, before we started talking, Kerry, you said, well, what are we going to talk about? And we thought, well, the repo market, and you brought up gold. And then we'll talk about gold. Yeah. And I want to interject it now because I'm writing an article. I write rarely. I'm going to probably drop an article in the next couple of weeks or so. But in 2007, 2008, I was writing an article a week sometimes. Okay, and I had a lot of people read me. Now I've stopped writing, and I've stopped writing for a number of reasons. One of them is I've already said what I've had to say. All right, I mean once I've framed it out, what the context of what's going on is. I don't care to write the same, like big deal.
Yeah.
So I retreated. I write 3 articles a year, maybe the most now. But I'm about to write another article, and in that article, I do talk about gold in a different way, and it's a thought that I've been evolving for. Kerry, I don't know if you remember Harry Brown.
Oh, of course, I remember. He's one of the guys who taught me about Austrian economics and why it mattered.
Before we even knew what Austrian economics was.
Yes.
All right. Harry Brown wrote a book on how to profit from the coming,
bad times. Yes. It was a Bible.
It was a Bible. All right. Harry had never graduated from high school. All right. But he went to work for a brokerage, and he realized there were certain things that were going on that he didn't understand. So Harry went back and figured it out and wrote this book before everything fell apart. All right. Now, this is back in the early 1980s, late 1970s. Because I remember I paid for my friend Marshall, and we paid I think the ticket was $125 a piece to go Harry Brown talk in San Francisco. $125 is like $500.
A lot of money, yeah.
A lot of money then. So I had a lot of money then. and Marshall was already a multimillionaire, but he wasn't into this stuff. So, I didn't want to go alone. So I bought a couple tickets, and we went to hear Harry Brown. All right, now, so and Harry Brown's thing was about gold. He said, we're going to hell in a handbasket real quick, and he explained why. And he said, gold is your ticket of the way out. All right. And later, Harry wrote a really good piece. He said, listen, you really can't tell before the end crisis what's going to go up and down, because there's a lot of distance between now, here, and the end. So he had a basket. The basket was 1/4 equity, 1/4 bonds, 1/4 gold, 1/4 something else. And he said,
I remember.
one of these is going to save your ass, all right, until the end. And in the end, only gold is going to save your ass, all right? Now, we're at that point now where only gold is going to save our ass, all right?
Mm-hmm.
I thought only gold was going to save our ass in the beginning, so I basically stay out of equity, all that kind of stuff, and I lose a lot along the way because I put my chips only on the end game.
Same here.
All right, and you're only going to get cashed out in the end game.
Yeah.
All right, if that's where your chip is. All right. Well, I'm not a day trader. All right. I don't know if you guys know about Rick Ackerman.
I know.
All right.
Sure.
But Rick is a fantastic day trader. Fantastic. All right. He was a market maker. In fact, I knew about Rick because I was living in San Francisco in the 90s, and he wrote this column for the Chronicle. Kerry, that was so cynical. That was so cynical. You would have read it if you were in San Francisco.
Uh-huh.
All right. I loved it. It was cynical about the market. So what happens is that I really became involved in starting Rick Ackerman in the run up in gold in 1980. All right, because I was holding warrants that Harry Schultz, not Harry Schultz, James Dines had recommended warrants on a gold mining company, a Nickel Eagle. All right, and I had bought them, and I was like, oh, man, I was 3/4 down.
Yeah.
You know, I was screwed. All right. I was screwed so bad that I didn't want to watch. I wasn't even looking at where they were. All right. And then all of a sudden, gold started moving up in the spring of 2008. And I went, holy shit, I'm way up. The next day, I went, holy shit, I'm up further. I mean, it was skyrocketing. All right. So I'm reading Rick Ackerman at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, there's a pivot point up ahead. And he named it. All right. He said, it may reach that pivot point or it may not. It may go beyond it. But watch this point. So I watched it, and it hit on the day he said it did, and I sold. I put a sell order in. I got out the next day, and it dropped like a rock. All right? Wow. I didn't understand this. Just like
lucky.
I didn't understand what was going on in the repo markets in 2007. I didn't understand it enough to the point of where Martha and I paid $1,500 to fly back to New York City for Rick Ackerman's next seminar. And so we were there, Martha and I, in a room of day traders. And let me tell you, Kerry, we're not day traders. I'm the kind of guy who puts my chip on the last thing, because that ain't me. But Rick Ackerman said something in that room. He said, everybody, and they had people from Europe, all over the world. Now, you know, it's like sort of another version of Antal's thing.
Sure.
He said, everybody's here for one reason. You've noticed my uncanny accuracy.
Mm-hmm.
All right? And it was true. He said, I want to tell you something. By the time you leave here on Sunday afternoon, you're going to understand what I've done. And he did. Now, we understood what he did, but it wasn't in our personality to do what he did. Because to do it, you had to have that personality where you watched it every day, you watched things unfold, and you made your bet. That's not us. All right? And I knew my personality was going to change. But I knew why Rick Ackerman's system worked. It was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. And for those of you who want to know about this, I would suggest you go to Rick's pick, all right? And Rick told us how he came into this. Some old Jewish trader who befriended him, you know, was a mathematician, and he showed him these certain things, and Rick went and did this on his own. And what Rick basically did was this. He said, listen, he said, I was in New Jersey. I grew up in New Jersey. I knew New Jersey, all right? And he said, I was in on the ground floor when gambling was going to be legalized. All right? I knew everything about it. I knew all the players. And I knew it was going to happen. I knew it was a fix. And I was in the beginning, and he said, and I got out when I thought it was over, you know, when we had hit the top. He said, well, the top was probably 20 times, 100 times further than up. He said his personality was so risk adverse that he got out way before he should have. All right. And other people in the room are so risk taking that they will stay in long after they should have gotten out.
Right.
And he said the beauty of his system, Rick's pick, is it allows him to figure out what's going on outside his own personality proclivity.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And you saw it happen. So those of you who are watching, who are listening to this podcast, who are like day traders at heart, I can steer you to no better place than Rick's picks. All right. And the rest of us are going to rise and fall according to our own personal betting dharma.
Mhm.
All right. And be that as it may, this is where we are. What I want to say about gold is this: gold is only going to rise until the whole thing collapses.
Yeah.
All right. Because the boys in the game who are paying for hospice, all right, and the reason why they're actually shelling out for hospice is, one, they print the money, but two, they don't want anybody to know that the patient is sick or even in hospice.
Right.
But the economy that you're seeing now has been in the tanning booth for 10 years. And being in a tanning booth is itself ultimately fatal.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't want anybody to know it.
Right.
And so, because if they know it, the game's over. And one of the other reasons that they keep you from knowing that the patient's in hospice is manipulation of the gold and silver prices. Yep. They won't let it go up. They're fighting it every inch of the way. The moment they couldn't really fight it was in 1999, when Goldman Sachs was going under. The pressure was so great that all of a sudden the price of gold that had been going down since they got rid of Volcker, all right, was finally starting to go up, and a lot of the New York banks were caught on the backside, and the leverage was so great that the Bank of England had to divest himself of 80% of its gold holdings to keep the game together.
Wow.
And the fucking Bank of England was willing to give up 80% of its gold reserves, which had accumulated over 3 centuries of imperialism, chopping off arms and legs in the Belgian Congo, etc., was going to give up 80% of its gold. You don't think they're going to do everything in their power to keep this game a cap on until it blows up? Well, they're going to, and they are.
Yeah.
So don't expect the gold to go through the roof until it's all over. Now, maybe now it's finally going up again. I'm a little more optimistic than I was in 2011 when it dropped because it shot up 30% in 3 months, and they forced it down from its high of 19 down to ultimately 1150, 1160. All right, now it's back around 15, and it's back up reluctantly.
Yeah.
Because the same boys, the same game is the same commodity, and it's a long game.
Mm-hmm.
But I really think that it's in hospice. I think you're right, Kerry. But, I thought it was in hospice. I heard it was in hospice in 1982, listening to Harry Brown in San Francisco.
Sure. Yeah. Well, so any other signals you're seeing there that are really indicative of what's happening?
Well, this is sort of fascinating because we live in it's like, I just got this image popping into my head now that we're living in a world of metaphors, that what you and I, Kerry, are doing is we're watching a game of 3-card Monte being played out on a sidewalk, all right, by an extremely skilled card player, all right, and we're watching what's going on, and what we're stunned at is the skill of the card player because we know it's a con game, all right, and everybody out there is betting, all right. These are the people who can't even qualify to go to the payday loan, all right. But if you ain't got nothing, betting is the way. It's the only way you see that's the way out. All right. So you and I are watching this incredibly skilled player of 3-card Monte. All right, and his level of ability to con these people is at the level of conjuring. All right. I mean, that's why we're still watching. I mean, you and I have day jobs. I mean, we're late for lunch, our lunch appointment, but we're so stunned about how skilled this player is. All right. Now, the truth is, you asked the question, is there anything else? Well, I keep my eyes open. All right. And I watch what they're doing. And I know, I just read something about Jerome Powell. He's a lot smarter than people think he is. Everybody thinks, he's a hack. Well, he is a hack because of who he works for. All right. But he's a lot smarter. Just like Greenspan was a lot smarter than what he said, because the boys who run the game hire the best, and everybody's in need of a good day job. All right. And now you and I who don't work at the Fed get really judgmental about what the people of the Fed say, or BIS, or the people in the system. We get really judgmental because we know they're lying. All right. The truth is, Kerry, if you and I were offered so much money to go work for them and we needed a day job, we may take it. All All right. I mean, it may be you and I or somebody like us saying the bullshit that they're saying.
Yeah.
So you can't trust them. But I read something that he said just last night, and it was very perceptive. And it showed me that he knew what was going on. All right. I mean, I read papers coming out of BIS in Switzerland, research papers, and I go, wow, this is something that you expect to come from the Wobblies, from socialists.
Yeah.
All right. They really know what's going on. They know what's going on, Kerry, but they can't say it in public. All right. Nobody reads the BIS research papers. All right. Except every once in a while it'll reach the internet and I'll find one that's rather perceptive.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And nobody really listens to what these people say except publicly. All right. And the truth is this: we're at a point that I think everybody's going to have to trust their own inner gyroscope. All right. To a way, because we're in a time of where lies are given more credence than the truth.
Yeah.
And I think always that kind of reality for a thing. But we're now at the point, Kerry, where I believe that what we're feeling inside intuitively maybe is certainly truer than what's going on out there. In fact, I didn't even come up with this crap-ass answer till you asked me. All right? I mean, Kerry, here we are playing cold, all right, on October 14th or whatever this day is, all right? And you asked me a question out of the cold, all right? And I skirt for the answer, all right? And you know what? It's blank. And, you know, that's why I've come to the answer that I had. That I think now is the time that everybody has to check inside, because each of us is far more in tune than our minds are. I mean, Kerry, I have a mind that should be medicated. Right? I have a mind that will project the collapse or great wealth with equal clarity. I mean, it's stunning. All right? Of what my mind will do. All right? And I've learned over my 74 years that I really can't trust it. I can't help listening to it. Yeah. But I know after 74 years, I can't trust it. All right? And it's probably the latest realization I've had to the level of distrust that I have for my mind.
Yeah.
And I believe that I have a gut check that I should stay in check with far more time-wise than I do with my mind. So because of your question, that's my answer.
All right. Fair enough. So what is the solution, though, short of an out-and-out systemic collapse? Is there any
Yes, there is a solution. Yeah. Now, and in fact, it has to do with this repo crap. I have a close friend. In fact, we're putting on a seminar in London in April, 4th and 5th, on money. It's called Money, Rock, Paper, Scissors. Right?
Where's this happening? You said
on April 4th and 5th. We haven't even. You're the first person I've told about it.
Okay.
We haven't even put it on our websites yet.
All right. Well, let me know.
April 4th and 5th in London. It's going to be held at the Royal School of Mines at Imperial College. All right. And it's on money, rock, paper, scissors. And it's Sandeep and I are pushing it. We're going to be speaking, and we have other people lined up. A guy from Australia is coming in, a guy from Brussels.
Yeah.
And when the week after the repo market happened, it's September 17th. This was late September. I was talking with Sandeep. All right. I met Sandeep through Professor Fekete.
I know
He's
him.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I know Sandeep.
Brilliant.
Yeah, Sandeep, if you're listening to Darryl, make sure you write a comment in the YouTube comments. I've seen you floating around. We were supposed to do something together, but I lost track of you. So go ahead and email me, okay? Email address out there, guys. If you want to contact us, you got impressions or feedback on Darryl's ruminations here. It's kl@kerrylutz.com. Anyway, so Darryl, so what did Sandeep have to say?
This is what he's saying. I was talking about it, and we were talking about it in a very general sense, all right? Because one of my very close friends was asking me what the hell was going on, all right? And so I'm talking with Sandeep about it, and Sandeep said,
so funny.
The day he saw what was going on, and now Sandeep's in the market.
Yeah.
All right. He's not a only gold guy at this point, because I don't like to bet. I don't like to switch bets. I'm really bad at timing. All right. Yeah, so I'm an end guy. Whatever I have is gold and silver, and that's it. All right. Sandeep has the wherewithal to go in and out. All right. He knows a lot more, and he's a lot younger. All right.
Well,
so Sandeep told me when he saw what's going on, he made a call to his broker. And his broker says, sell all equity and go into gold.
Mm-hmm.
That's what his advice was. So this was Sandeep's movement in the last week of September of this year. All right? Sell everything in paper and go into gold. All right? Sandeep and I, we were at one of Antal's seminars. We were both speaking in 2009 in Europe. And in fact, it was Germany. And Sandeep lives in London, so I interviewed him on my way back. And I asked Sandeep, I said, just two guys, just like you and I are talking, Kerry. Same thing.
Yeah.
And the 2008 collapse had happened 6 months before. And I said, Sandeep, so when do you think it's going to be over? So this is April 2009. And Sandeep said, well, Darryl, at this point, you can't tell. He says, because when it happens, it will be a grain of sand. All right? Mm-hmm. And we can't tell when that grain of sand is going to drop. And we both agreed that in 2009, we couldn't tell. Well, let me tell your hearers, your listeners, that last year, Sandeep and I were talking about something, and we both agreed that we can now tell. We're right at the edge. We're right at the precipice.
Let me tell you about something a rabbi once told me about a grain of sand. He said, a grain of sand, when it's in your rectum, is the most insignificant thing in the world. But when it's in your eye, it becomes the most important thing in the world. And I guess we're getting to that point where it's going to get in everybody's eye. Yeah.
Did that rabbi get that direct from the Kabbalah?
I don't know. He's gone, and I can't ask him, unfortunately.
That's brilliant. What? We've used a lot of metaphors in this conversation, Kerry.
Yes, we have.
That one, I'm going to tell Sandeep.
This rabbi was a very brilliant man. So, all right. Well, okay. I think we got a good idea here. So make sure you go take a look at Darryl's site, drschoon.com. That's drschoon.com. Take a look at our site, financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Got all 6,000 plus of my interviews and daily news aggregation, all the important stuff that the mainstream media just happens to overlook. And send us an email, kl@kerrylutz.com. Twitter feed @KerryLutz. Facebook page is Financial Survival Network. If you're listening to this, watching it on YouTube or on a podcast platform, please subscribe to it, like it, and share it, and let the world know. Darryl, we will be catching up with you again real soon. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Kerry.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.